Like a utopia compared to like Orleans Parish or even Jefferson Parish. The amount of public investment that the county has put into itself over the last 20 years in public works, public services, and especially public education have yielded such amazing dividends. I think it's why you see such an amazing county and such amazing growth throughout it. I mean, the resources that they continue to spend. 3 buses a day for students after school means that every single student has the ability to participate. Having snacks for them means every student gets fed somehow during the after-school period, and that's not true for all students that want to participate in after-school activities all over the country. But that's an investment that keeps them in schools, keeps them active, and raises the bar on where they can be in life. And without that type of investment, I don't think you can continue growth. You can't maintain the amount of work and that you've had in Fairfax County. So I would like to see that where I'm from, back in Jefferson and Orleans parishes, where we just don't have, we haven't committed the resources to doing this for our students after school, and creating the resource centers, the career centers, where every single student has access to this. Multiple counselors, as opposed to overworked. I mean, counselors are overworked already, but they have a lighter load here because they just hire more people, and it costs a little bit more up front, but over time it gives students much better access and much better ability to achieve what they should be achieving as opposed to being lost in the system.
Now, you're a member of the Human Rights Committee.
Resources.
Resources. Wait a minute, you grew up in New Orleans.
Yes.
You spent how many years there?
19.
19.
Most of my life.
Most of your life. And then how long have you lived in Fairfax?
I've been in Fairfax County for almost a year.
And you're working with?
BPSOS.
What is that?
It's a Vietnamese community organization,
What's the
international
name?
Organization.
Who does BPSOS stands for?
Boat People SOS. It started as a Vietnamese refugee assistance, and we've grown to be an international organization dedicated to anti-violence in the Vietnamese community, pro-democracy, and anti-human trafficking around the world.
And the Human Rights Committee, when did you join?
I joined the committee 2 months ago.
And what does the Human Rights Committee of Fairfax County do?
The Resource Committee investigates potential problems and solutions to Fairfax County initiatives. So right now we're looking at internet work or internet homework. Most students in Fairfax County have moved towards doing most of their work online after school, which is great because it gives students constant practice with technology, knowing how to use it, knowing how to interact with it. However, on the outskirts of Fairfax County, there isn't as much broadband access, and in lower income communities. So we're afraid that students are getting lost and getting behind because they don't have access to these resources at home. So we're trying to investigate if what we want to be a positive is actually becoming a negative on a lot of students. And we want to make sure that if we're moving forward, everyone moves forward. You just can't bring a few people forward. You have to bring everyone forward. No one should be left behind in these initiatives. And we're also looking at the application and admission rates for Thomas Jefferson High School.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting. What are you doing with that Thomas Jefferson issue? Or could you explain it as you understand it?
So right now I believe there's a lawsuit. I haven't been on the committee long enough to know exactly what their plans are, but the application, just the application rates are very, very odd. If you look at Thomas Jefferson, the amount of females applying has actually been going lower and lower every year, and it's close to only 40% and 60% males applying. But that's the inverse of the population, the workforce, and universities. I mean, there's something, we don't think there's say selection bias, but there's definitely a systemic problem when people of color, African American students are applying at near zero rates. Hispanic students are applying at near zero rates. There aren't enough female students applying. We're trying to figure out why, because the way that we look at Fairfax County's populations, the application rates should definitely be different. Not even the admission rates, just the application rates are what we're really concerned about, because it means that at some elementary and middle school level, that there's something going wrong.
What kind of work do you do with the youth, particularly the Vietnamese American youth?
I run a full program from ages 5 to 18. So I run an after-school tutoring program for low-income students in Fairfax County, particularly Falls Church. I run 2 Vietnamese culture clubs open to all students that want to learn about Vietnamese culture at Fairfax and 2 middle schools in Fairfax County, and I run a high school and early college career mapping and exploration program. So we ask students what they want to do, we try to help them figure out which classes and which scholarships to apply for, and later in college or during the summers when they're in high school, they get to apply for internships with local professionals in the community.
What have you, what perspectives have you noticed among the Vietnamese American youth with whom you work? Now, I understand it's just over 1 year, but what most interested you or struck you as identifying characteristics of the Vietnamese American youth that you've been working with?
They're far more integrated than I think when I was in middle school and high school, where...
More integrated than in New Orleans?
Yes, at least back when I was, I mean, it's been like 10 years since I was in high school now, but the schools are just so diverse that everyone's integrated. There aren't as many groups that separate themselves solely by race as I remember going through high school and through college. It's far less cliquey. All of my students bring in friends. I mean, I've had students from every race or ethnicity in the schools. They all show up for my club because they want to do something. They want to be involved and they want to learn.
What do you do in the clubs? Is it about Vietnamese culture?
About Vietnamese culture. They like cooking, so we've cooked.
They like eating too, I bet.
Yes, they love the eating part. We play Vietnamese games. We'll talk about the basics of Vietnamese language, and I actually let them direct a lot of it. At first, it was kind of hard for them to create and choose their own topics, but after they did, they showed a remarkable amount of independence. I think the last 2 or 3 cooking projects I did, I just had to bring the materials and they created these meals all on their own. I did no cooking. I just made sure nothing caught fire, and they served the food to the administrations as a show of their appreciation. The administration loved it. So.
And how about their aspirations? Do they ever talk to you about being Americans? What do they think of American policy internationally? Not just about Vietnam or domestically. They must be thinking.
A lot of them are 6th graders, so they're learning the basics of civics. And through the election, so they only know kind of what their parents talk about. At one of my middle schools, it's mostly 8th graders, so we get to engage in more conversations like that. So we look at trends and we look at politics, like what do they think about these certain policies. Or we talked about even the admission rates at Thomas Jefferson, asked them to write down the percentages of populations they thought were in the county, and then I showed them the populations and applications and admissions for Thomas Jefferson, and they immediately thought something was wrong. Not that they were doing something wrong, but that something looked off. And it only takes a basic look at statistics to think, maybe there's something different about this, and it bothers them, and that's good.
How about the dysfunction in American politics?
I don't think they're at
They don't notice it yet. Gun control, did they ever talk about Newtown?
No.
Okay.
But I realized that they grew up with war. The U.S. had a constant state of war, and
it was strange.
I didn't realize that until I talked to them. As long as they can remember, at least, the U.S. has been at war.
Oh yeah.
And when I was growing up, there was a very brief Gulf War.
Hoping that it would be the same.
But for the 90s, there was no real conflict. I think that's entirely different. So when they saw the Boston bombings, I think it was their first time seeing something so graphic on TV.
Right.
I didn't get to see coverage of Katrina because I was actually there for Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
So I don't know what they saw for that, but the Boston bombings kind of shook them because it's the first time they saw such graphic violence.
How about the way? How about the youth? Youth teen idols. Are they so integrated now? They sit around and talk about Justin Timberlake, maybe stars, celebrities, Korean pop.
Yes, it's either One Direction or Kpop.
Did they dance Gangnam Style?
Yeah, they all know Gangnam Style. They all wanted to do a skit about that. But the trends I've seen in my students, they really love One Direction. I think I barely know who they are, but they love either One Direction or K-pop. I think K-pop is just a growing trend, not just amongst Asian Americans, but just American culture in general. There's really big adoption. One of a really big Korean star has been in a lot of action movies lately. He's in G.I. Joe. He's in a movie that's coming up. So that's something I've seen as far as Asian culture kind of permeating into American culture beyond like when I was younger, maybe a little bit of anime and Hello Kitty, I mean, is kind of ubiquitous, but like actual Korean music and Korean groups are showing the type of penetration that American groups typically show into Asian cultures.
And they love the Gangnam Style.
They thought it was funny. I'm not sure they thought it was funny.
No, it's with the Indians, they like the Bhangra. Is it Bhangra, the Indian dancing?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have a lot of Indian. I have some Pakistani students and Bengali students, but I don't think I have a lot of Indian students.
Okay, but if you ever ask your culture club for a project, what do they usually focus on? What do they go for? Celebrities, entertainment, writing? What do they?
And I think that's
cooking.
Yes.
Eating.
Yeah, they like the eating part, but they really like just getting together and creating a project. At the middle school level, usually it's kind of directed by the sponsor, but I wanted to treat them the way you would in college or in high school. You get to direct your own projects, and I think that gives them this perspective. I want them to have this perspective that as they go along in life, whatever they can accomplish together can be done. They don't need a lot to do it, but by working together, they've accomplished these amazing projects. They created an event. 3 of my clubs got together and they just passed a piece of paper around and wrote on it, and they just handed it to each club, and they planned a laser tag event for 60 students. Invitations, food, time, everything. All I had to do was call and make the reservation, give my credit card number so that they can do this. But it was entirely student planned, student organized for all 60 students and chaperones.
So it's a very American exercise.
Yes.
You're very confident as Americans.
Yes.
Okay.